Morning everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. We're looking at something a little bit different today. Joseph's John Deere CS71. Yeah, this isn't something you would normally see pass through the shop here, but this intrigued me just enough to take it on. This poor saw has been sitting here for a good month or so, maybe just a little bit longer. So this is one that we're going to be doing a piston and cylinder on. Now it's already been to a shop locally to Joseph, and they indicated that it needed a piston and cylinder, that they had pressure tested the crankcase, the seals were fine. That's the information that I have. And for now, I'm going to go with it. There's definitely no compression there. Well, make sure the valve's popped. I mean, you can't even try to lift the saw up. So what we need to do is get down into this beast. I'm a little confused. Is it just that intake boot that's holding that? I think it is. Get into this thing and get it apart. This would be an FCO, if I'm remembering correctly. And this would have been from the mid 2000s, again, if I'm remembering correctly. This had been a point that John Deere had sold Homelight to, what was it, Zhenfeng Industries in China, and was now contracting to have their saws built by FCO. Well, that's the throttle, and I guess those are the cylinder screws. Okay, so this thing I'm seeing wasn't put back together 100%, more than likely because the shop knew that it was going to need to be torn down again. We're missing a muffler screw, and okay. Yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time on this saw yet. Long enough, as we were conversing through email, to know that I could get parts. Was able to cross-reference with the MT, what was it, 7200? Yeah, would donate some parts. That's the FCO version of this. And thankfully, Chainsawer, that's chainsawr.com, any of you guys who have been looking for parts have probably run across their website. Looks like it's been sold to new owners, at least according to the blurb I saw on there not too long ago. And I can say that initially their service is the same as the previous owner in terms of quickness and reliability. They had this piston and cylinder for the MT7200 on there, and oh geez, I think within 3 days of ordering it, it was at my door. So that's a good sign. That website, you know, whatever boneyard they're picking from out there, I think it's in New Hampshire, maybe it's Vermont, whichever, it doesn't matter. Their boneyard apparently is significant. Alright, what else is holding that? Man, I can't see back in there for sour owl manure. Never worked on FCO saws. They're not, to my knowledge, they're not that common here on the West Coast. Let's hope that's tight enough. And that came loose. You know what's funny is, even though they contracted with FCO, I'm looking at the front of this muffler cover and it says Deere Company and it has a UP part number on it. So John Deere apparently stuck with some of that UP part numbering scheme even after they got rid of Homelight. I have no idea for certain, but I always thought UP stood for a universal part that was crossing brands. I honestly don't know. Oh boy. Yeah, that muffler, that piston is roached. Good and roached. I'll probably need that again later. I'll just leave it down. Let's see, how well is the camera going to focus? Oh yeah. You guys can see that little mess in there. And that is aluminum dust. Melted aluminum dust. Wow. See if we can see the rings. Oh yeah. Ring landings are destroyed. I'm pretty sure those rings are pinched in there. So that's unfortunate. I can't remember where Joseph picked this saw up at. But I think he bought it knowing that it was going to need this. So hopefully the price was according. Get that spark plug out of the way. And we'll see if the cylinder bolts behave. The hex key, brand new spark plug. Just for grins, I guess we'll look and see if it has spark. As those leads are sitting there shortened to everything. Yep, there's spark. Not super strong looking, but strong enough, I hope. It's pulled out of its location. These hex key T-handles have got the ball end on them, and that's neat and sucky all at the same time. You don't get as good a grip. That's not even the right size. There we go. I bought them from Harbor Freight, which I know is a terrible thing to do, but they've actually lasted, hell, I've had them 4 or 5 years now, and there's only one that's really given me too much trouble on the ball end, and that's the most common SAE size that I use, was 9/32 or something like that. And it doesn't matter. Anyway, their set, I will say, is better than I expected. And for stuff like this, you do need something that'll grip. Now with these socket head screws, if they're full of crap, take the time to use a pointed tool and clean the garbage out. Can't tell if that's up all the way. Those are 4 miles long, that one's not. Clean the garbage out so that you get as deep a seat with the tool as possible. Otherwise, you'll find yourself in a real pickle. Alright, that ought to come off. Hey, how about that? My brain's still in vacation mode. We gotta get that stupid intake boot loose. Otherwise, this isn't going anywhere. Yeah, 5 nights up on the North Umpqua. That was fun. More people than I care for, but hey, we're in the middle of the Corona summer. That is bound to happen. Oh boy, that is going to be interesting. That cotter pin was militantly bent apart over here. There was never any worry of that coming out. I don't know how this is going to go. Besides, not well. God. When I replace these choke rod cotter pins, I do not get crazy Jesus. How in the world a plastic choke rod with a heavy steel cotter pin in it that has been mangled. I wonder how this is going to go. Anyway, I don't bend them all to whack like this. Get them bent to where they don't slip out easily. That's all you need. Anyway, the next time you have to take the carb off, it's not a miserable pain in the neck like this, where you have to worry about breaking a plastic choke rod. Phew. Wasn't sure that was going to work. Alright, you get out of the way. Let's see, what the hell? Well, this is an odd setup. Guess I'll take this loose and see if we can get the carb off without some sort of a plate that's screwed to the top of the fuel tank right here. I'm hoping the carb will come off without taking that. Oh yeah, there we go. Should be able to push the intake boot through and leave this plate in there. Guess at least we'll find out. Well, I'll say this. It's still kind of dirty under here. Those hoses aren't all cracked up. That pulse hose, pretty stiff. I think we'll replace that while we're in here. But as stiff as that is, maybe we'll just do it the way I think they intended. Okay, so that's the ground wire for the switch there. One thing, these vertical cylinder saws, not too many variations they can make. They're all going to be about the same. I mean, there's going to be manufacturer quirks. One does this, one does that, but grand scheme of things, can't change a whole hell of a lot. Yeah, it's destined for the cleanup bin. But at least these are standard fasteners. Just using my regular 5/16 socket that I use in all the home light stuff. So far, so good. So this, there we go. Wow. Talk about torched. Got so damn hot the edge of the piston is scuffed up right here. We'll recover our cylinder bolts before they can get lost. Okay, where's number 4? There it is. I hate these things. Trying to feed them into place is such a pain in the neck. Now, can't tell. That gasket. I see some residue on here. I can't honestly tell how much of that is staining and how much of that, no, that's gasket. Most of the gasket stayed on here. So whatever this gasket material is, it is tough. I ended up using my fine wire wheel to finish cleaning the old one off of this thing, because the gasket scraper was just trying to gouge aluminum. So as I do this crankcase, you know, up here, I'm going to have to be careful with that. But I think what we're going to do is get this piston out of the way and then put that cylinder, the old cylinder, back on and head to the wash bin and clean some of this stuff up, because this is messy. Come on. There we go. Let's see how tight this thing is. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to drive that. So in a case like that, get this other pin out, we'll drive it, or retainer out, we'll drive it from the other side. I guess I'm not surprised given how hot this apparently got. Then it's plain nasty, do you? Phew, yeah. Okay. That should be it. Wow. Yeah. A lot of heat scoring there. And then the piston itself is just obliterated. Apparently. Oh wow. Yep. That's one of the worst spots right there. But it's no wonder this thing didn't have compression. No wonder at all. Alright. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close this back up with this old cylinder. And I'll probably just put one screw that's easy to find access in. We'll tighten it down just enough that I can get this cleaned off. And then we'll scrape the gasket. Come on. So we can start putting it back together. Now, I don't know the history on this saw any more than anybody but the previous owner, before Joseph, does. So I don't know if this carb is going to be good to go or not. Now looking at that from right here, it almost looks like it's a Tillotson. But that says Japan. So it is not. Is this a Walbro W? Okay, so this is a Walbro WJ. And I don't know that I have. I do. I'll be damned. Talk about some luck. Got a K10WJ kit sitting right here. So worst case scenario, if we can't get her to fire, we can rebuild the carb. But I'm going to clean some of this stuff up and we'll come back. Okay, well, we'll see how this gasket scraping goes. I'm not convinced that this is going to be any fun at all. In fact, quite the opposite. But got to be done. You don't dare reuse a gasket like this. At least not in my world. Oh, well, that could have been worse. Let's see if that holds. To get one of these all back together and then have it run improperly because of an air leak, and you trace it back to a gasket that you could have replaced, that's just not cool. That's the kind of thing that'll piss a guy off. At least me. So I said earlier, this isn't the normal type of thing that I would take on. I mean, you guys that watch my channel for any amount of time know that. And it's not something I had any parts for in stock. So some of these types of things, if an owner approached me and said, hey, I need blah blah blah, would you do this? There's going to be times where I'm going to have to say no, unfortunately. And usually that's going to be a lack of available parts. Because if I can't get the parts, there's zero reason for a guy to ship, a saw that needs repaired, all the way out to Oregon. That just doesn't make any sense at all. Now, we were lucky, again, with Chainsaw having this stuff in stock. In many cases, even when it's an inquiry on parts, I'm advising guys, hey, keep an eye on eBay. And it's amazing what turns up on that site. I know it has a bad reputation because of some unscrupulous sellers, but let's be real, there's some buyers that aren't exactly straight up either. You got everything that the run of the mill, there's people that, we've all met them, that want something for nothing and expect a used part to be like brand new. That's not reality. So in some ways, eBay gets a bad name. Now, if you want to talk about their company policies, go right ahead. I think it's a neat platform that gives you good access to a huge number of potential customers for whatever it is you're selling, whether it's chainsaw parts or your grandma's silverware. It provides a marketplace that, again, reaches literally millions of people, if not billions. So, whether you agree with their fee structure or not, their platform is providing something that the world didn't have. So, anyhow, to my original point, if I can't get the parts, I'm going to probably tell you, yeah, don't send me it, because I don't have space to keep something sitting around for months or years while waiting to find those parts. Now, if it's something that you want to sit on and keep an eye on eBay, or keep searching old shops and find the parts and then get a hold of me again, hey, more power to you. That sounds good. We'll talk at that point. And I'm not always comfortable assuming, like in this case, I'm getting a higher level of comfort just based on what I'm seeing, but just because a shop tells somebody that, yeah, we pressure tested it and it's fine, that doesn't mean they did it. And I don't assume that, shops are bad or anything like that, but I have seen too many times where there's been a shortcut taken where, a saw is it's not going to run, and you want the customer to accept that fact. I've seen an overstatement of what's wrong, let's put it that way, or an understatement, either way, depending on the agenda. But in this case, Joseph was told, yep, got a bum top end, piston and cylinder shot, and it's very possible that they did pressure test the crankcase. None of these, muffler screws were extraordinarily hard to get out, and it clearly had at least the inspection covered off. So I'm tempted to go with that. And the bottom end here does not look bad. I'm going to go blow this out real quick, get the gasket material out of there. We'll start reassembling this thing. Still rotates very freely. No bearing noise there, so I'm going to assume that the damage was limited to the top end. It is usually the case. You've got to get it awful hot and basically run it dry, you know, with no oil in your fuel before you can start doing damage to the bearings. And usually they accumulate enough extra oil in them that they survive. I mean, they are hardened steel versus an aluminum piston and cylinder. Aluminum's going to give up far quicker. Alright, nice clean gasket surface, courtesy of our old friend Acetone. I think we will put this new to us piston on there. And one of those retainers is missing. So I'm glad I saved the old ones. That's what I thought. See, that pin just moved easily. That other one was galled from heat. Alright, so on this one, home lights tend to have their ring locating pins kind of right next to each other. This one's offset. So if you go this way, both of these are going to be way too close to that muffler port. They're going to be right there. Accumulate carbon and crap. I'm going to rotate it back this way so that they're closer to the intake port, where fuel is constantly going to splash and hit and clean those out. You don't want your rings to seize up in their landings, because then you've got problems. So we're going to put a nice coating of clean oil on this bearing and give it a fighter's chance here. Whenever you're assembling one of these things dry, basically, you want to get some good oil in there. And once the piston's on and the gasket's in place, we're going to squirt some oil on the connecting rod bearing there. We'll never be able to reach the crank bearings, but again, usually they retain enough. They'll be okay. Get this lined up. Come on, baby. I pushed that in a little too much too soon. Where are you? There we go. Look how easy that slid into place. I did that with my finger. That's nice. Okay. Reuse one of our old retainers here. Damn it. I was just going to say my needle nose pliers, the tips are worn. So you want to try not to shoot it the way I just did. Thankfully my workbench is still relatively clean. Otherwise finding that could have been an issue. There we go. Okay. We are set, folks. This is going together quite well. Exactly what I would hope for. Alright. Our new to us cylinder was cleaned inside. Used a white paper towel with oil on it. It's the old machinist trick. You do that until it comes out clean. Now, it wasn't honed. We're using, you know, piston cylinder that are matched, worn together. So there was no reason to hone it. This is a genuine FCO part, allegedly. Got an MTD label on it. God, does MTD own FCO too? Or is this from the John Deere side? I don't know. No idea. Alright, now this has, yeah. So there's a, I guess that gasket is multi-directional. We've got this relief right here that we're going to want to make sure we line up properly on the cylinder. See if all these holes line up. Huh. And they don't. Boy, I hope they didn't send me the wrong damn gasket. Does it go that way? Ah, that's what it is. Okay. Just clock 90 degrees off. Good. I didn't want to have to get upset this early. Okay, gasket's in place. Pull the rod to the side here. There is some movement that allows it to go side to side. Again, you don't want to overdo it. But that gets a nice preload of oil in there. So let me find my ring compressor that will fit this piston. Is that going to be, yep, that'll do it. And now we're going to coat the inside of the cylinder with a nice film of oil. One good pump, maybe two, depending on the size of your cylinder. She's going to smoke just a little on startup, but that's okay. We want it well lubed. Alright. Just to make this a little easier, slip this intake boot back on. It's still drying out there. That looks about right. May have to tweak that position a little bit, but again, this is easier to get this at least partially. Get it as close as possible while it's apart. Hey now, don't piss me off here. Come on. Okay. I should still be able to get to that with it on the saw. Alright. Make sure the rings are centered against their... Okay. Almost straight. And you just work that bad boy down. And it's in. Try not to disturb the gasket. Try not to disturb the gasket. Make it easier to get those bolts lined up. Boy, that was almost too easy. What's wrong here? Now you got to feed these miserable bolts down. So the rear here actually, whoop, you can set them in if you don't drop them like a dummy. I guess the front ones are going to be the ones you got to feed from the. Well, now that's the same. Yep, same. What the hell is that? Giardoni? Must be Italian. Of course, if I remember right, EFCO is Italian. And I'm sure I bungled the pronunciation on the name, but that's not of any real consequence right now for this. Alright, so I'm going to just barely get these down to where the washers are touching. We still need to put the carburetor pulse hose on. And like I say, I'm going to replace that with a piece of my tie gun. just stiff enough. I don't want any potential leaks. Don't want to have to worry about that. Again, this kind of surface right here, most of your top cylinder saws like this, a vertical cylinder, vertical piston, whatever you want to call it, pistons traveling up and down as opposed to so many of the old home lights that were back and forth. It's going to be like this. You're going to have a crankcase. Some of them split, some of them don't. This one looks like it does fairly easily, which means there would be a big damn gasket that would serve as a tank gasket, crankcase gasket, both oil and fuel. So my personal policy is to avoid splitting that whenever possible. It's just asking for a leak down the road. If you've got a gasket that's sealed up tight, don't disturb it unless you, Jesus, absolutely have to. Come on, man. Alright, fine. That hose doesn't want to come off. It doesn't want to come off. See if I care. Not worth fighting it. There's more than one way to do this. Just a little extra there. That should be about right. You get out of the way. And we'll feed that onto the barb here. It must be a fairly militant barb, but that's good. You don't want it coming apart, coming off at some point. Especially if you're out cutting. Good way to screw up a day. Alright. I almost should have machined a little relief right there. But whatever, it works. Get you out of the way. So, there we are. We just put a new to us cylinder on this bad boy. That's not terrible. Get rid of our gasket scraper. We won't need that anymore. Okay. That's good. Get everything progressively tightened. Nothing super special about this. Just get everything good and snug, and then pick a pattern you want to work with. I like to go diagonal on these. Okay. Should be good to go. It already sounds better just by what you can hear coming out of the spark plug hole here. Much better. Alright, let me grab some parts from the wash basin. Fresh from their bath. Alright. Might as well get this back into place. This is actually a pretty nice setup, now that I'm looking at how it's laid out. This is a pretty good way of keeping your carb boot right where it needs to be and eliminating undue stress on it. And it's always going to flex because of the AV mounts. This is keeping the carburetor from putting a bunch of stress on it, because the threads with inserts, the inserts that have the threads for the carburetor are right in this plastic. Now, Do I have that boot clocked right? Ah, it's off just a smidge. That sucks. Knew it was close. Not sure I even moved that at all.
Hey Dad, where's Mom?
She went to the store.
I'm trying to grab this.
Okay. Come on. Obviously you want to be careful that you don't get too rough with the boot. Come on, you're so close. Just get in there. It's going to suck as if I'm still off by just a tad here. Get it to lay flat. And I am. Well, that's fun. That's totally fun. Come on. Can't even tell if I'm turning that, to be honest. There, well, that turned. Who knows, maybe that'll be too much the other direction. No real way to do this. And no. Damn it, come on. I preferred you hadn't come all the way off. Ever notice how some things will come off really easy, but going back on? Impossible. Alright, let's hope third try's a charm. It's been the most irritating part of the whole project right here, just getting this lined up. So I guess in reality that's not bad. What you don't want is to settle for quote-unquote good enough. There, that's perfect. Because if you hit this with one of your carburetor screws and start distorting it, it's going to leak like a sieve. Not too long ago we came across that with, I think it was a Homelight 360, where the boot wasn't quite lined up right and it wrinkled. Maybe it was the 450. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It wrinkled and was creating an air leak. Okay, looking pretty good. Now since we've got this thing off, we're going to at least check the diaphragm on this carburetor. I would be really irritated if we put it all the way together just to find out that, whoops, carb needs kit. Doesn't make much sense to do that. Okay. Oop. That's just from the cleanup. The vent for these diaphragms to allow air pressure, in and out so it'll move up and down, does allow sawdust and crap to get in on this side. Now that is free and clear. I think this has got a brand new curb kit in it. And if it's not brand new, it's really close to it. the diaphragm out of the package there wouldn't be any more pliable than that. So we're going to button it up, put it back on. Alright. Interesting. That's why that hose has to be so long. This pulse hose comes out at an angle. So, plug. Yeah, there we go. Almost. That's seated all the way. There we go. Oh, dummy. One of these was a muffler screw. This is the ground lead for the switch. That one goes in. Spotted that before. Getting the carburetor in place. There's our fuel supply. Alright. Okay. The rest of this should be pretty straightforward. Alright, those are fitting perfectly. Like the way this is coming together. Ooh. Throttle linkage was already off of this bad boy. I wonder just how much of a pain in the butt it's going to be. Yeah, this note from the shop: each piston and cylinder scored, air leak at decompression valve, seals are good. Yeah, I can see how it would leak a little bit at a decompression valve. Hell, if that was true, that would mean there was carbon in the seat of this old valve, or the copper washer was shot, which means we probably could use, if we needed to, probably could have used some thread tape or something. Yeah, this looks pretty straightforward. Too easy is scary, though. Can it be that easy? Hey, what do you know? We'll take it. So we'll get this air intake mostly in place, and then we'll put in that little self-threading screw at the bottom. Well, that's still loose. We're going to want it to catch the old threads if at all possible. Yep, there we go. Okay. Nice and tight, but not too much. We don't want to pull those inserts out. Alright, might as well come on, you dipstick. Alright, might as well get this muffler reinstalled. I'm going to use a little thread locker blue on it. Just a smidge though, because there's serrations on those washers. And if it ever has to come off again, we do want it to come off. ordered a new, this looks more like an aluminum plate, but there appears to be some gasket material in there, so we're going to go ahead and replace that. And it's got to go that way. Okay. So, we're going to try something that may or may not work. We're going to try feeding these through, getting that gasket in place, and letting that... Oh, you dipstick. We were there. Ah, I need another hand. Okay. That's where that one started. It's not galling. I can't see a diddly squat in here. There we go. Not bad. I guess the shape of this muffler chamber almost forces your tool to where it needs to be. Nothing else, you can feel the screw head when you're close and get in there from there. Yep, there she is. Okay. This could be a whole lot worse. Now that should be the deflector. Yeah, so that's going to force up through there, and then this would be the heat shield, of which one screw was missing. So we're going to go back to the way it was and put the two, come on you, we're going to put the two in the bottom, and I'll see some of these screws, I'll be honest with you, have looked suspiciously home-light. This included, so I may have something in the home-light bin that will fit. As long as they're not a metric thread. Now, I would have thought Italian was, but I say some of this stuff looks suspiciously like that stuff I've used all these years on home-light, so we'll see. No big deal either way. Before I tighten that down anymore, was that missing too? Something tells me it was not. That's interesting. Those are all different sizes. Those should be the cylinder cover screws. Alright, well, we're going to find out right now. What thread size that is. I'll be damned. It's the same. is not hanging quite low enough. Come on. You quit pissing me off. That's awesome. John Deere must have unloaded a bunch of old Homelight hardware over to these folks for these saws. That's incredible. Stuff you learn. Which means somewhere there's going to be a socket head screw that'll fit this muffler. Pretty cool. Oh, that's right. It was this oddball one that was in there. Well, it's got the right one now. So good enough. Alright. Get our spark plug in. We're about ready for a test fire on this bad boy. And it's 9 o'clock. That's late enough in the day that I shouldn't piss off too many people. Get the choke rod to deal with. Ow. Amazing how one bump on the workbench is enough to make that cotter pin go goodbye. But it was out of shape enough it would have been a pain to get back in anyhow. So many other things are Homelight on this saw, or at least appear to be, in some fashion. That cotter pin's going to be too. Again, I'm not going to go crazy with it. I just want it to hold the rod in place, that's all. Okay. Well, I could start it without installing all of this, but I think I'm going to get cocky on this one and say it's going to work. Dangerous thing to do, but we're going to try it. I think we've fixed everything that needed fixing. I'll give them this, the grade of rubber they used on these damn boots. It stays pliable, but it's also strong. So getting it back up in where it belongs is a bit of a pain in the butt. Come on, you. You're just an air intake. Going into a plastic housing, I really don't want you getting jacked up. Oh yeah, sometimes the easiest stuff, or what should be the easiest. You know, even the intake boot wasn't this big of a pain. Damn you. It was just wrinkled down there. And it won't pull back into shape. You dumb bastard. Come on. all the things to hold us up from the test run. You stupid sucker. About had it. And it is just right here. And it refuses to straighten the hell out. This is unbelievable. Ouch. Now will it pop over? Finally. Boy. That was interesting, and not interesting in a good way. Okay. Are you kidding me? How is that supposed to? Ah, it's still not in the right spot. Hasn't slipped back. Damn you. I'll give him this. There's no freaking way that filter can leak around the base when this is installed properly. This is incredible. There's actually a lip that goes all the way around here. Damn. Almost got it. At least for this part. I guess it's already in the back. Alright. There. So it is supposed to snap down in there, and if it won't, don't force it. I'm glad I didn't proceed and do something stupid there, because I have no idea how easy it is to find that boot. Based on overall availability of other parts, I'm going to say it's not easy. So you don't want to jack it up. I don't think my socket will fit down there. So we'll do it the old-fashioned way. Oh, God. Dang it. This is going to make this so difficult. Damn. You know what we didn't do? We didn't hook up the on-off switch. And now having that intake boot in place, this isn't going to be any fun. Dang it. These little details can really get a person. Alright. So what we'll Let's pop the switch out. We'll hook it up that way. So I gotta grab those leads and get them out of the housing. What a dummy. Got so excited about thinking about this thing running, almost forgot an important detail. Not too many people want to flood their saw to shut it off, myself included. Come on, line up. Now, a lot of these saws that have had damage to piston cylinder like that are going to exhibit some pretty serious plastic melt. This one remarkably has damn little. They left enough distance between the cylinder shroud and the muffler, and the muffler's big enough it must have dissipated heat pretty well. You can see some melting down in here, but it didn't totally destroy it. And thanks to the fact that it still has a full metal crankcase and tank that's out here, it didn't jack that all up. We've all seen, Huskies are the ones that I really see that on. A lot of plastic around here, and when one gets hot and burns up, it eats that plastic quickly. Alright, that's enough false starts and fun and games. I'm going to get some fuel in this bad boy and see what she does. Some junk out of the way. Ever since I shopped the internet and cleaned this bench, I've done a decent job of not letting it get effed up again. Okay. That's an interesting amount of fuel hose down in there. Almost a coil. That ought to be enough for a test run. Good news is this piston and cylinder is not going to need broken in. Once she's running, she's ready to rock and roll, because they're already a matched unit. And on. What do you say? Let's give her a shot. Oh, and it does have the compression release. Come on, baby. Okay. I'm happy. Wondering if this clutch was off at some... No? Just watching those shoes move and everything. I've had one of these explode before. I don't want to get hit in the face with it. But there it is. That was successful. 100% successful. Great compression. probably is still a little bit of that assembly oil to burn off around the crankshaft journal, but not much. So I think I'll go ahead and load it up with oil and make sure that the oil pump is working. We do need to get the clutch off because this sprocket rim down here is completely shot, so I'll go ahead and replace that. But I'm going to check the oil pump first, because if I need to service something in there, that's going to be back behind here. And again, I'm hoping that's not the case, because I don't think parts are just growing on trees for this thing. But anyway, Joseph, you got yourself a 71 back alive.